Hey, what's happening? I'm Claudio, and today I'm going to be adding a couple more storage options to the French cleat wall I built a little while back. If you haven't seen that video yet, check it out and then come back to this one. If you want to see what I did, stick around. Let's make it now.
This is the French cleat wall I made earlier, but there are a lot more things that I want to store on here. I'm starting with some of these F-clamps. I took some measurements to figure out the size of wood I needed. I also measured roughly how much space I had to work with. I grabbed some plywood and started test fitting. I needed to figure out how close together I wanted the clamps to be. Once I had all the dimensions, I could lay out the entire board. I also marked how deep the clamps would sit. This would determine how deep to cut the plywood. Once it was all marked up, I took the plywood over to the bandsaw. I cut out all the notches, taking my time not to stray too far outside the lines. I put a couple clamps on to make sure they fit, and they did. I glued a French cleat to the back, holding it together with some brad nails before pre-drilling and sinking in some screws. I measured and cut some plywood blocks to add to the sides for strength. Just like before, I added some glue to the joint and held the pieces in place with some brad nails. Once it was secure, I could pre-drill some holes and then drive in the screws. I put the rack on the wall and then loaded up all the clamps. Next, I could focus on the quick clamps. These have a little different shape, but the same general design. I measured the clamps and then cut some plywood on the table saw. I used a scrap piece of plywood to mark in from the edges. I needed to see how close the clamps could get to the edge. Once again, I was back on the bandsaw cutting out all the slots. I added some glue and screwed the piece together. I also added some blocking on the sides for support. I added all the quick clamps, but didn't like how it was hanging down so much, so I rearranged the sections. Next was a bin full of spring clamps. I laid them out and measured how long my rack needed to be. I cut a couple long strips on the table saw. I was going to chop them down to size, but realized I could do that later if needed. I would leave the rack extra long for additional storage. I marked out a dado location on the bottom board and then took it over to the table saw. I adjusted the blade height and made several passes until the entire dado had been removed. I added some glue and then fit the board down into the dado, then secured the connection with screws. Since the rack wouldn't be holding too much weight, I added a small French cleat block at either end. I put it up on the wall and then loaded it up with every spring clamp I own. The last part of the project was to clean up all the shop towels and rags that I have lying around. The construction was simple. I just made a couple of boxes to throw things in. I used different pieces of 3/4 inch plywood. I cut all the boards down on the table saw and then assembled them on the bench. I tacked all the pieces together with some brad nails, but didn't use any glue. I wasn't exactly sure of the size, so I wanted to be able to easily change that later. For now, I screwed it all together. I added a section of French cleat to the top of the bin to be able to mount it on the wall. I hung it on the bottom cleat, but noticed that I needed a spacer block on the bottom to keep it from torquing the cleat off the wall. I added a small block and then loaded up the bin with some towels. I also hung the second bin. I'm not sure if I'm going to use the two for different kinds of towels, or maybe just one for clean towels and one for dirty. We'll see. I also made a couple smaller bins to hold my work gloves and knee pads. Down the road, if I get more clamps, I can easily move things around and make them fit. I don't see this wall as finished. As I build more projects, I'll figure out if the layout works for me, and if not, I'll change it up until it does.
Well, I've been using the wall like this for a couple weeks now and love how easy it is to access. And like I said, it's just a work in progress. I know a lot of people like to spend all kinds of time and money trying to make their shop perfect. That's fine for some people. I don't really care about that. All I care about is to make the shop functional and efficient. I don't want to fumble around trying to find things. I want to make stuff now. Make it now. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and let me know about it in the comments below. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel so you won't miss any of my upcoming projects. You can follow me on social media at Make It Now channel. And if you like the blog format better with pictures instead of a video, check out my website at makeitnow.tv. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.